Hello, I'm Grant Gershon, the artistic director of the LA Master Chorale,
And I'm Jenny Wong, the Associate Conductor of the LA Master Chorale.
and welcome to Offstage with the LA Master Chorale, where our guest today is the amazing composer Derrick Spiva Jr. Derrick, welcome. It's great to see you. Hey.
Great to see you both. Happy to be here and excited to have a little chat with you both.
Yeah, likewise. Well, first off, Derrick, why don't you tell us where you are and what has a typical day been like for you during this time of isolation?
So I am currently at home in my living room in Culver City in my apartment. And all of these paintings behind me are from Ghana and Vietnam. Those were our last two trips that we did before all of this stuff happened. I think that before the quarantine, there was a lot of staying home and working on music. And then after the quarantine, or during the quarantine rather, there's been staying home working working on music. So I guess like my life didn't change too much outside of the fact that like when I do want to go outside, like there's a bunch of precautions, of course, that need to be taken. And
It makes me think, Derrick, about the fact that you seem to have so many musical influences, and it'd be really interesting to know, like, what was the music that like first rang your chimes, like when you were a kid, like what really turned you on in music?
Oh, well, the first thing that I was exposed to was gospel music and religious music, um, but in that pertained to like the Black church, because that's where um, those were my earliest memories, because my dad played piano and organ for the church. And then after that, I my experiences with music kind of drifted more towards soundtracks, film music, because there were in film music they have all of these combinations of styles, because it's they doing whatever they can to pull off the narrative of the film and the music. And right in the middle of that, I remember the very first piece that I remember the most was Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, because my grandmother loved it a lot, and there are renditions of that melody in a lot of church music. There's a that melody is like, and it's got different words and all this stuff, but the melody is like really famous in the church. So Beethoven's Ninth was like on the plate like really early, and I saw such an opportunity with classical music and how open it is. Sometimes people think that classical music is very like rigid and restrictive, but the reality is that if you look at the pantheon of composers and of across all backgrounds and performers across all backgrounds, you can find a bit of everything in this genre. Like it's massive. It's really hard to even describe what it is. In modern times, when people say, well, what is it? Well, it's like, well, it's whatever you want it to be, you know? So,
And you were touching on, dance and rhythm, and is they seem to be very big elements in your music. So when you're composing, are you yourself a dancer, and do you sing along and groove along when you compose?
absolutely. Absolutely. I am dancing in this house. I have like a desk that I can like raise to stand. And so like I'll like be playing the keyboard or like singing my parts, and then I'll just be like grooving in the house. And then my wife walks by and she's like, "What in the like what is he doing over there?" And then and but yeah, I love to dance, and I love to like perform all of my parts. That's the other thing is I always have this I have to be able to do it. If I can't do it, and then I show up at the rehearsal, hey, Derrick, how do you do this rhythm? It seems kind of crazy. Well, I better be able to do that rhythm, or else why am I asking them to do some rhythm that I can't do? So I'm always grooving here in the house, and I wouldn't consider myself like a dancer that should be at like LA Ballet or something like that, or even like the local hip hop crew or something. But I do like a lot of like West African traditional dance, which is some of the stuff that I did in the LA Chamber video. And then I like, I like I've got some moves, right? But I'm not, I'm not like prime time or something like that.
And your music, it always feels so intuitive. And so maybe you can talk about, was that aspect of your music always part of you, or what did you maybe take away from like these experiences with other cultures?
One of the things that uh, that happened to me in the early 2000s, after I like kind of graduated high school and started my undergrad at UCLA. I would have stuff that was in 13 and 15 and 17, and then just broken up into small components. It'd be like, Derrick, what are you doing? Like, what is this? But then when I started taking a lot of these classes, these performance classes, the Indian classical music, both Carnatic and Hindustani, and the West African drum and dance, and then also gamelan, Indonesian gamelan. Um, I I started to like actually kind of feel what the phrases that actually feel right in the body, and a lot of it is just based off of hundreds and thousands of years of people from those cultures like feeling those rhythms in the body and having that be come out on the instrument. And so after working with a lot of those cultures, and then also continuing my studies in classical music and so everything, and also Eastern European music, I have a lot of Balkan influence too. Everything just kind of started to swirl around each other. And then when it started to come out in compositions, I just noticed that I was focused more on like how my body was reacting to the things that I was writing, more than like me getting like really, really technical and doing like some of the craziest like rhythmical breakdowns where it's just like, oh, I'm going to put it in 17, and then have everybody get lost towards the end of the phrase or something like that. Right. So it just became like, well, if I'm going to put it in 17, then there's got to be like the way that the melody is shaped, the way that the groove is shaped. It needs to feel so natural that they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that 17 could feel so comfortable. How can I make it so that these actually feel good to like the people that grew up in my community, and then also still be like amazing on their own, right? Like it's in 17, it's in 15, yet I feel completely fine. For me, what fuels my art is to see the excitement of others. So like, for example, if I'm walking down to the store and then I see somebody and they've got headphones on and they're just like, dancing down the street, I'm like, yes, do that. I get whatever's going on with the music that's making them feel like they need to be doing that. That is what excites me, because I'm like, see, man, music can do that. I tell this story all the time, but it's true. For the majority of my life, I wanted to be an astronaut. Like that was like my goal. I'm really fascinated by astrophysics, science, space. I'm like all about it. I'm more than happy to sit on the couch and watch a documentary about black holes for like 2 hours. I'm ready, you know. And what ended up happening was there was this side thing where I was just like, man, this is kind of crazy that like music can make people feel a certain way, and like in a real profound kind of a sense. And then I was like, man, I sure would love to hear this combination of instruments doing this. I wonder if I can find that. And I was always looking for something that I was thinking about in my head and I couldn't find it. I say, you know what? Let me just write it so I can hear it because I can't find it anywhere.
I was just thinking if one day you do become an astronaut, you would actually be a really great representative of what like all different kinds of music from Earth like to another like planet's beings.
Real.
That'd be awesome. There's this one fact that I always love to tell my students because I also do the youth orchestra thing. And I always talk about how like there's this black hole in the Perseus cluster of galaxies, and the thing is humming a B flat, 57 octaves below an auditory B flat that we can hear, right? So 57 octaves, B flat. So the universe is just making music. Been doing it for who knows how long. But I was just like, wait a minute. So there's a B flat just hanging out there? Like, that's awesome. That's the kind of stuff that I love, man. I love it.
And yet we tune to A's.
That's right.